Welcome everyone. This is Sandy Holterhouse. This is Exploring Plant-Based Diets, and today we're going to focus on vegan and vegetarian diets in particular. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, just wanted to show you a pyramid, and this is from one of my favorite websites that support vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, and traditional diets. It's called oldwaysspt.org, and I've listed it in your group share, and you'll find it on plenty of my slides. But great place to go get recipes and lots of information if you want to explore some of these plant-based traditional diets. But looking at this pyramid here, if you start at the bottom, you notice that the base of your pyramid is going to be those fruits and vegetables. And as we start to build up, then you add in those grains. Grains are particularly helpful in adding some of the amino acids to the vegan or vegetarian lifestyle. And then we also move up the level here and add in those beans, peas, lentils, and soy proteins. That also adds amino acids to help do complementary proteins, and they're also very filling, rich in fiber, so helps support the digestive system. Then as you continue to move up, you see the nuts, the peanuts, the seeds, nut butters also. You can make seed butters as well, or purchase seed butters that contribute to protein and fiber in the diet. Then at the top of the vegan pyramid will be the herbs and the spices and the plant oils to help jazz up the foods. Now, if you're going to consider a vegetarian diet, then you would have the options at the top as well. So the eggs and the dairy, that includes, yogurt, cheeses, cottage cheese, all those things that if you are doing a lacto-ovo vegetarian diet, which add a lot of protein, calcium, and some other important nutrients to the diet. So moving on, just getting into, kind of the differences between vegan and vegetarian. And I've mentioned these a little bit on that last slide, but a vegan diet is going to exclude animal flesh, dairy, eggs, and animal-derived ingredients. So some of those ingredients would come from the protein sources, of milk or dairy or meat, and some might come from insects. So, for example, gelatin is derived from meat products, so that would be something that vegans would stay away from. Honey from an insect. Carmine is also from an insect, and that is frequently seen as a red dye in some of our personal care products, such as lipsticks. So that would be something that vegans would avoid as well. Pepsin is another protein source from protein sources. Shellac is from an insect source, and it is used frequently in candies where they're trying to have a shiny shell on the candy. Albumin is an egg protein. Whey and casein are milk proteins. And then, of course, some forms of vitamin D3, which are derived from our fish oils. Those would all be things that vegans would stay away from. Vegetarians, on the other hand, don't eat animals, but they will may consume the products that come from the animals, being as those are, it doesn't kill the animal to produce those products. So that's kind of the school of thought there. So you've seen the slide in the first presentation, but I think it's worth repeating. So the vegan diet, also very reflective in the lifestyle and the types of products that are used. It excludes all those animal-derived products, meat, seafood, dairy, eggs, honey, any of those protein sources or things that are derived from animals or dairy or eggs. Raw vegan, again, mostly all raw, very restrictive diet, but foods can be cooked up to like generally 104 to 118 degrees is the limit for that. So you're not killing the enzymes. You're retaining the nutrients. Again, a very restrictive diet, so you really have to pay attention to nutrition and supplementation possibly. The lacto-ovo-vegetarian, again, that's what we commonly call a vegetarian. No meat, fish, animal products, poultry, but will eat derived products such as milk and eggs, or derived products from insects such as honey. Lacto-vegetarian excludes eggs. Ovo-vegetarian excludes dairy products. And then along those lines, a pescatarian diet, which includes fish, poultarian, including chicken, pescatarian, including chicken and fish, and flexitarian, which is semi-vegetarian, up to like about 9 to 26 ounces of animal products per week. And just worth a mention here, since I did mention the old ways diet, is also the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet is also a very plant-based diet, and it's been shown and studied to be very healthy. And a traditional Mediterranean diet does not have a lot of meat in it, but it would be more kind of along the lines of a lacto-ovo-vegetarian diet, but including some sources of meat on like more special occasions. So health differences, let's talk about that for a moment. So if they're not well planned, a vegetarian or a vegan diet can lead to nutrient deficiencies, and there are nutrients of concern, and those are generally going to be your protein. If you're not eating animal sources, you need to make sure you're getting plenty from your plant sources. Iron can be of concern. Zinc, those are both generally found in our animal foods. Omega-3 fatty acids, generally found in our fish. Calcium in dairy, and vitamin D, also found in dairy and fortified into foods, and B12 as well, found in our animal foods mostly. So you may be having to pay more attention if you're going further along the spectrum towards that vegan diet, to make sure that you are getting the correct amount of certain foods in the diet, or supplementing to make sure that you're keeping those nutrient values up. So as might be expected, vegetarians are going to have higher intakes of calcium and B12 than vegans, because they are eating dairy and eggs, including those in their diet. It has been shown that a vegan diet may be better for the health, for controlling both the weight and reducing the risk of certain diseases. However, if it is not well managed and well planned for, you're much more likely to develop nutrient deficiencies with a vegan diet. I think that all makes pretty good sense. So just a chart here going over those nutrients of concern. And there's one nutrient I didn't include, but you might read about if you get onto different websites, and that's iodine. But generally, if we are doing any salt on our foods and using iodized salt, we're going to be getting plenty of iodine in the diet. It hasn't really been a nutrient of concern for quite a while in the United States. But again, it could be if you're not using iodized salt, if you're only using, sea salt, and if you're not getting any processed foods in the diet. So if you're eating some processed cereals and that type of thing to supplement your diet as a vegan or vegetarian or plant-based, then you'll probably also be getting enough salt or iodine in your diet as well. So these nutrients, the protein, again, you need to obtain all the essential amino acids to be able to have make those complete proteins that your body needs. In there are sources from plants, and those would include soy, hemp, buckwheat, quinoa, and blue-green algae, which could be, for example, chlorella or chlorella powder. Iron, again, is of concern because that's mostly from our animal sources. And you can get some from beans, lentils, spinach, nuts, seeds, and enriched bread, but that is the non-heme iron. It's not as easily absorbed as the iron from animal sources. So that might be a nutrient that you might need to supplement. Zinc, kind of in that same family with the iron, mainly found in our animal sources, can be somewhat mitigated if you are taking in dairy and eggs, those types of foods, as a lacto-ovo vegetarian. You can find that in fortified breakfast cereals. Pumpkin seeds are a great source. Cashews, chickpeas, baked beans, all good sources of zinc as well. Omega-3 fatty acids, again, generally going to find the best sources in our fatty fish, but there are plant sources as well. They just don't convert as well to make that healthy oil that we get from the fish. So chia, Brussels sprouts, hemp seed, walnuts, and flaxseed. And I'll mention this later, but there are what they call algal oils that will contain those all of the omega-3 fatty acids that you need. So calcium is another one nutrient of concern, again mitigated if you are doing milk, dairy, egg products in your diet, because those are great sources of that calcium. But you can also get some calcium from our soy foods, pulses, almonds, Brazil nuts, and even green leafy vegetables, broccoli, those type of things can provide good sources of calcium as well. Vitamin D, again, frequently found in our fish products, meat products, in our milks and eggs. So could be a nutrient of concern. Some great sources of vitamin D for plant-based diets are mushrooms, fortified plant milks, fortified cereals, and fortified orange juice. So if you're looking on those labels and purchasing some of those items, or maybe you've strayed away from orange juice and maybe that's something you want to add back in if you are going more towards the vegetarian vegan spectrum with a plant-based diet, so that you can get some of the vitamin D back into the diet. Vitamin B12 or cobalamin is another nutrient that's of concern because it's mainly found in those, again, meat products or the milk and cheese, eggs, those products that are derived from animals. So a great source for vitamin B12 is fortified nutritional yeast. If you do seek that out, you want to make sure it says fortified on the package. Our fortified plant milks and also fortified cereals can be great sources of B12. And again, this was just a small introduction, and we will cover more in depth in our class 5 all of these nutrients of concern. And I think I did allude to this, but just that statement at the bottom there that you can really mitigate a lot of these nutrients of concern if you are vegetarian versus vegan, and if you are taking in dairy products, and those products, eggs, milk, cow, anything that has is derived from our animals. So our last slide today is going to be our second challenge, and I want you to start exploring a variety of plant-based lunch options. And I really like to recommend like soups or salads or stir fries, that type of thing for lunch. With salads, you get a lot of great raw vegetables. You can always add some grilled vegetables onto your salad as well. You can also cook soups, and that's a great way to get in some of those greens. You can add some greens to those soups, or stir fries, getting loads of vegetables in with stir fries, maybe adding some beans or something in those as well. And that covers a couple more of our old ways, transitional ways to get to a more of a plant-based diet that we saw in our first class, one of those slides. So that is all for today. Next week, we will be looking into more of the pescatarian, the proletarian, and the flexitarian diets. And I hope you will join me then. Thanks for joining.